Hello, everybody. Welcome to an episode of Biblio Files, the show on AADL TV brought to you by the Ann Arbor District Library, where we take a few moments each week to discuss one fresh new book topic. My name is Amanda, and I'm joined, as always, by Christopher and Lucy. And this week, we've got a loose and fun topic. What is one book that you just have to talk about? We could do this question all day, every day. Christopher, what's the book that you have to talk about?
Well, one book that has always stayed in my mind and that I would love to talk about is King Leopold's Ghost by Adam Hochschild. This book had such an impact on me, and very briefly, it's about King Leopold II of Belgium and how he privately owned the Congo. And he took all of the rubber and the ivory that he could out of the Congo. And Hochschild does such a good job of showing how he just destroyed everything, and he killed up to 10 million people in the region just for Leopold's personal gain. You may have also heard of Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. So this book by Conrad is also based on this time period in the Congo. So Leopold also used every form of physical violence that he could against the people there just for his personal gain. Hochschild's telling of this history is amazing. He is such a great writer, and he really he tells the story so engagingly. Normally, I don't follow a lot of historical writers, but Hochschild's writing led me on to read other books of his just on the name alone. I really didn't have a lot of interest in some of the other books that he was writing, or didn't think I would have an interest, but because he was so engaging and such a rich historical writer, I just grabbed onto those as well. So in brief, that is King Leopold's Ghost by Adam Hochschild. Lucy?
I also picked a piece of nonfiction. It's a really new book, actually, called Smile. This is The Story of a Face by Sarah Ruhl. Sarah Ruhl is a playwright, and this book chronicles her experience with Bell's palsy, which is paralysis of half your face usually, which she experienced after giving birth to twins. So when the book starts, she already has a 3-year-old, and she has a new play opening on Broadway, and she finds out she's pregnant with twins. It's a high-risk pregnancy. She has bed rest. So all this stuff going on already. Her twins are born early. They're in the NICU, and then the left side of her face just starts drooping, and it's paralyzed. Bell's palsy after pregnancy, I learned from this book, is common, but usually it resolves in like a month, and hers does not. I loved this book because, well, there's a lot of reasons I loved it. She's a great writer, and she's so well read that, like, as a reader, I really appreciated all of her literary insights that she puts into her story. She's also very honest about motherhood, about childhood, about marriage, about being the daughter to her mother. And it's sort of this personal yet gripping story. It's a study of this mystery illness, or the mystery of this illness for her. And then most importantly, I think why it resonated for me so much right now, she's also very funny. So it was like, I enjoyed the humor, but she talks about what it means to lose your smile. And that's interesting in any time period, especially, like, makes me think, how are smiles used differently to convey different meaning, and the emphasis that's put upon women, especially in our culture, to smile, the frequency with which women are told to smile, which, I mean, I think anybody who is a woman has experienced that. And then also, what's it like to be a mother if you can't smile to your new babies? Like, what is lost there? Is that important for babies to read a smile from your face? And she talks about, she starts to realize that we use smiles for subtle coding hundreds of times a day. And as I said, parts of it made me laugh out loud, but it just really made me think about what you convey with your face. And she finally learns to make peace with her face by sort of not blaming herself for what has happened to her and learning to experience joy, even though she can't smile. I think that's also interesting that like when problems arise in birth, a lot of times women are just like, what did I do? So all of that was very interesting. But reading it right now, when we are all entering the world with a lot of our face covered up and starting to really think about what it means if people can't see your smile and how much you might rely on a smile without having to say words or anything, like we're all kind of experiencing that. And so it was just really interesting to read her journey. As I said, I loved her writing. I want to read her plays. It was a great book to read. So that's called Smile, the Story of a Face. Amanda, what did you pick?
Well, first, to say that I'm very intrigued by that book. And as you were speaking, I totally was thinking about the fact that we're walking around daily with so much of our faces covered. And I've thought about that like over the past like year and a half of like how much we do emote and speak like silently through our facial expressions, and how do we alter that if we're in public and want to talk to somebody just like across the room. So I find myself doing lots of like thumbs ups or I'll say I'm smiling under here. So that's just interesting. That sounds like a really good book. Yeah, so you both picked these really dense, lovely nonfiction titles. It's been a while since I've read nonfiction. I picked one of my favorite genres for today. I picked a book called The Seventh Most Important Thing by Shelley Pearson. This book was published in 2015. It is a youth fiction book. We call it middle grade, so it's great for upper elementary and middle school. And sometimes it's hard to get adults to read a really great youth fiction book. Like this book is a couple hundred pages. They're quick reads and they're delightful. You really get some insight into younger characters and how they're feeling, what the experiences they're going through. And I'm a sucker for those kinds of books. And this is great. It's realistic fiction. The seventh most important thing is focused on a young boy named Arthur. Arthur's around 13, I think. And he's dealing with the death of his father. He's grieving. And one day he is out and he sees the local junk man. Everybody calls him the junk man. And you see the junk man is wearing a hat that used to belong to his dad, Arthur's dad, that got discarded. And Arthur recognizes his hat and something in him just snaps and he's so angry and he's having trouble processing his emotions and his grief. So in that moment, he picks up a rock and he hurls it at the junk man. Now he doesn't hit him in the head, but he still hits him and he has to suffer the consequences. And he goes to court and he is given community service. And the kicker is that his community service is working those 120 hours or whatever for the junk man. Arthur can't believe it. He's got to work for the junk man. What is this? Of course, like at that age, he's super like, he's embarrassed. He's ashamed. He's got to go to this man's like garage. And then when he's there, the junk man gives him a shopping cart, the chariot. And with the shopping cart, Arthur is to walk around town collecting junk and garbage, specifically the 7 most important things. And these are the things the junk man tells him are the 7 most important things: glass bottles, foil, cardboard, pieces of wood, light bulbs, coffee cans, and mirrors. So Arthur has got this chariot. He's walking around collecting these things. And then after a while of working with the junk man and being around him in the community, he starts to learn so much more about himself and the junk man and about first impressions. And he realizes that there's more to meets the eye about the junk man and this thing that he's building. The junk man, it's in like this rented garage, and he's collecting these things to build this giant art installation. So this book might sound familiar to some of you. The book is based on a real person named James Hampton. He was an American folk artist in the 60s, and he was a recluse, very similar to the character in this book, who's also called Hampton, of collecting these pieces of trash and creating this gorgeous thing. And for the real man, James Hampton, he was creating his version of heaven through all of these scraps. It was his life's work. I think he worked on it for 14 years, and it was called The Throne of the Third Heaven. And so in the book, Arthur is a made-up character, and some of the other characters in here are made up, but it's based on the true story of James Hampton and him collecting these things. And in the book and in real life, when the junk man or when James Hampton dies, his vision of heaven, his creation, ends up in a museum. It ends up in the Smithsonian. So it's just a really good, it just has a lot of heart to it, and it just gives you that impact or you see the impact of humanity and how we can affect each other's lives and how we can be changed, especially when we're forced into a situation we might not want to be in. So this is a really, really fun book. The Seventh Most Important Thing by Shelley Pearsall. Did I say Pearson earlier? I think I did. Shelley Pearsall. And it's a wonderful youth fiction book. And don't be afraid of reading youth fiction. Grab one. Realistic fiction ones are really easy to get through and they're fun. And if you don't like it, there might be another one for you to read. So that is my book pick for today. Lucy, Christopher, do you have any final thoughts on things you have to talk about or any of the topics we talked about today? No, we could just let Christopher laugh for 5 minutes and I'd be happy. But we won't do that. We will go ahead and end the show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Bibliophiles, chatting about books. We enjoy recording this show and talking about books each week. We hope you enjoy it as well. If you've got recommendations for a book that you'd have to talk about and you just don't have an opportunity, please tell us. We want to know. Click the link below and it'll take you to the library's website. You can comment there. We love seeing what you're up to and what your recommendations are. We are on YouTube. Go ahead and like the video, click subscribe, show your library some love. That's it for this week on Bibliophiles. We'll see you next time.